I found this doc or this interview with Abdullah bin Saad al-Bishi.
Sorry.
Who is he is the...
What a scary language to hear, like unexpected.
Yeah.
Like I didn't
You were expecting it, and it still was unexpected.
It scared the shit out of me.
Yeah, it's a scary language to hear, definitely. He is one of, I guess according to this video, the most renowned executioner in Saudi Arabia.
Renowned. Not notorious, not infamous.
Celebrated.
Beloved.
He is a guy who is renowned for his work as an executioner in Saudi Arabia. It's about a 10-minute video. We don't have to watch the whole thing here, but we will put the link in because
you have to watch it.
It's a bit challenging to do a commentary on because there's a lot of subtitling, but I promise you we will read the relevant stuff.
Also, just when you're watching this, imagine a Christopher Guest movie, like Waiting for Guff. Have you seen any Christopher, like Best in Show, A Mighty Wind?
Yeah.
To me, like, this plays with that level of comedy if you just pretend it's not real.
I mean, let's hit play because this thing is just. So they're actually showing B-roll of him taking. So
he's just playing with his.
Pause already. Within the first second they've introduced.
I accidentally paused on the funniest sentence.
This will be the thumbnail of the episode.
Oh, I screenshotted the shit out of this.
This particular documentary this particular news piece started off
profile piece
with the announcer describing the executioner, and as he was describing him and talking about his resume, they showed image and just like B-roll of him like
unsheathing this ungodly giant sword.
He's unsheathing it.
He's looking at it.
he's flexing with He's like doing swift motions, showing exactly what it looks like when he cuts ahead.
Well, he's talking about it, and just for you guys, the line that I accidentally paused on is showing him, and he's got a faint smile on his face. And the subtitle is there is no negotiating with him once the heads have ripened. That's in a light puff piece. That's a sentence written for your feel good tea in the morning.
When I tell you it's a morning show, it is without a doubt a morning show. You could tell by the way it's lit. It's morning. They're smiling. By the way, it keeps cutting to them as the anchors, and they're saying horrifying things while smiling.
They're just smiling. Here we go.
When it is harvesting, he is the most suited.
Harvesting time.
Okay, so it's a video of him explaining how he got into the business.
Oh, here's a good one. He started in the year. So he got into the business around 1412.
When his father died, who his father previously was the executioner.
Yeah, it's a tough business to get into. A lot of nepotism.
By the way, person of color. FYI.
Yeah.
We elephant in the room. Yeah. This is a black dude.
Yeah, it looks like he was like the witness protection program.
Well, I mean, he's a black dude, like a good-looking black dude.
Yeah, he is. Yeah, he looks like Soul Train black.
So good for him to have started in the year. He said he's been doing it since his dad died in the year 1412, which is about approximately 91 to 92.
Okay.
عام 1412. نعم. وقتها كان عندي يعني تفاجأت من الجهة المختصة في المجال.
Do you understand him?
Yeah, I do understand him. He said I was surprised. And so here's what we'll do. We'll watch it, and then just FYI, we'll read it to you as soon as he says something relevant, because I understand listening to this, you guys all can't understand Arabic. It's got to be challenging. He's saying that when he was called upon to do the job, he was surprised.
Yeah, he said, I don't even have swords. That's what he said.
But I used the sword that my father left behind, and I carried out my first execution.
Real quick, when he says my father, he says rest his soul, and then you could hear the announcers or whatever, the hosts of the show, also mumble under their breath, rest his soul.
Yeah, it's an Arabic tradition. Yeah, you go like, it's a thing you do.
Back to him playing with swords.
So they cut back to B-roll of him playing with swords, and it says that he has cut about 100 heads off with his sword. And now this is my favorite part, where he's recounting the first time he himself saw a beheading.
It's a gut-wrenching story.
Okay, hold on. It's fun. So during this part of the interview, he is recalling the first time he ever saw a beheading, and he's got his 3 adorable children in his lap while he tells a story that I'm telling you would ruin your life.
Your life.
If you
It's over.
If you saw this in a TV show and it was fake, and it was a completely fake reenactment of what he's talking about, you'd be deeply disturbed.
You know how they would do it on American TV? They would close up on him
Yeah.
when he was saying all the horrible stuff because they wouldn't even have the children actors in the room while he was saying this stuff.
The kids should not be allowed to hear what he's about to say.
They're in his lap.
عنده قصاص بتذكره في مكة المكرمة.
So he says he was at school, and there was an execution about to take place in front of King Abdulaziz's gate. That's back where it used to happen, according to him.
فحضرنا.
He shows up. He was a little boy. And the first thing that came to his mind when people talked about executions was his dad. Or no, was the digestive system.
كانوا في وقت
He always wanted to see the digestive system.
He wants to see guts.
And his kids are doing, honestly, the cutest shit right now while he's talking. They're playing with their overalls.
Yeah.
They're kind of
fidgeting.
Yeah, they're fidgeting.
Dad's on his stories again. Like they've heard it 1,000 times.
وقت يشرحوا لي على الجهاز الهضمي مدري ويش قلنا طيب.
So he thought the digestive system was awesome in the beginning of his life, just always reading about it in school. So he went and he saw his dad execute the first person. He ran over to see the first digestive system, but all he could see was the man's head.
Flying.
فخلاص أنا ما عاد أدري عن نفسي.
And he said, that's it. I couldn't take it anymore. I woke up in the car on the next day. And at night, I tried to go to sleep, but I couldn't. I had nightmares, but only once, and then I got used to it. Praise to Allah.
He's like, oh, I want to see guts. He ran over, sees the guy's head flying, passes out, wakes up, has nightmares for the rest of his
But
life.
he passes out. He tries to go to sleep, but he can't because he's too haunted by what occurred.
Meanwhile, his kids are just sitting in his lap.
He actually says something even more horrifying than saying he has nightmares for all of his life. He says he has nightmares one time.
Yeah, and then
That's it.
soul is dead.
Praise be unto Allah. He goes, I never had a nightmare about it again. And meanwhile, his 3 children are sitting in his lap.
So he goes back to his, by the way, beautiful sword box.
Yeah, it looks like he keeps his sword in a backgammon board.
من الطبيعي أن تكون مؤثرة لكن الملفت في بعض منها أنه فكاهة.
Okay, wait, we have to read that line. Go back just 2 seconds because that was such a good line. He says that beheading people naturally could have a negative effect on you, essentially. But he, the executioner, relates to it with some humor. He denies that the executioner is cruel inherently. He considers himself a pretty compassionate person, and all of the stories about him come from rumors. He looks like Terry Crews.
He does look like Terry Crews. But also, are there worse stories than him cutting heads off? Because clearly, to him, that's not a rumor.
I mean, the stories that are not rumors, the story that he's confirming, are some of the scariest things I've ever. Like Stephen King himself would wake up in a night sweat if he ever heard any of these ideas.
Doesn't he look like he should have a toothpick in his mouth?
He looks cool. Yeah. He kind of looks like an Arab chef.
Yeah, he really does.
نبدأ بالسلطان.
So he is now showing his sword, and he's named his swords.
That one's the Sultan.
Yeah, this one is called the Sultan. It's the sword he used on his first day of work.
His first day of work.
He's got, by the way, the double sword thing going on. And then this is his sword, Johar. Johar are the strongest swords used for beheadings. Oh, that's the kind of sword.
Yeah.
Oh, curvy swords are called Johar swords. Okay.
Yeah.
So what's great about them is they're not affected by the number of people that get beheaded. It's made of an incredibly strong iron.
So you just cut through heads and it keeps its edge.
Your shoes. Give me your shoe. Let me show you what this thing can do. This thing gets through your shoe.
I'll cut
heads.
this TV right in fucking half. I swear to God.
You got a rotisserie chicken?
Won't stand a chance.
He's got a sword here that called the Kadira, which he uses for more precise strikes.
He calls them vertical strokes. He's going into the benefits of cutting up and down or horizontal, depending on. This is a morning breakfast show, and he's talking about which ways to hit the neck.
He's got a pretty nice flat screen TV there in the background, so I think we're looking at a situation where he's making good money. So now they've cut back to in studio. If you skip ahead a little bit here, almost a minute, right there, they go to virtually interviewing him. Wait, go back.
This woman has some beautiful questions.
So it's cut to. Okay, so we went through the first part. The first part of that interview was based in his living room, where he was just sort of showing you around and talking about
Right, it was a setup piece to an in-studio.
It was filmed. Yeah, they sent over a producer. The producer was screening the scariest stories you've ever heard in your life. Producer's like, yeah, that's kind of good. What else you got? You ever?
Yeah.
Tell me about the first day you ever behead somebody.
Could you show me the swords?
Well, he goes, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, absolutely. I could show you the
Maybe
swords.
an embarrassing story. Maybe one time you were going to behead a guy, you slipped, you accidentally cut off his arm. Something like that ever
I think
happened?
this story needs some more visual. Could you bring your children in? Could you bring your children in for this murder story?
I can't stop laughing.
This is a great sentence right here. There are 6 executioners in Saudi Arabia, but there may be a few others.
They play it close to the vest, how many people they have doing a specific job. So that was a field piece, and now we've gone back to the studio of Good Morning Death to America, and and the anchors are actually going to do an interview with them where they ask all the questions that you might have.
You've been pining to know about.
So they've cut to this chick who's wearing hijab.
She's pretty hot.
She's pretty hot. Yeah. So she's setting up the interview, and they'll talk about some of the executioners
she's like,
trained.
so we're going to talk about executions, how he does it, and the executioners he's training, and she is smiling.
She's smiling like she's talking about like he's going to come on the show and bake a cake, and we're all going to like have a good time. He's going to come on show holding a koala. So cuts to he is now remotely joining them.
First question out the gate is, do you cut off hands or do you just do beheadings?
I do want to say this. This guy's got a better remote setup than most podcasters, even in today's pandemic world.
Yeah, he's got a background.
So he's got a background of like the Saudi Arabian government.
He's probably been doing so many of these pieces that the government just was like, here, take this background.
He's doing junkets.
It's just a rotation of journalists.
Now, you have put out your memoir. I most certainly did do it. That's the name of his book. I mean it, I 1000% did it. I did do exactly what OJ was accused of.
Okay, so let's find out if he cuts off hands as well.
Yeah, he's asked the anchor has asked them if he just cuts off heads or if he does hands as well.
Yeah, because that seems like rookie work.
That's where you want to start the interview right away.
Yeah.
So he says, he carries out the punishment of cutting out the legs and the hands of thieves,
as well as the cutting off of a hand and a leg on alternate sides.
So if you get caught stealing a second time, they'll get you on the alternate side. So the anchor is asking if there's any anesthesia done when they do the
limb cuts.
Yeah. Or is it done without anesthesia, like beheadings? Wow, they do no anesthesia with the beheadings.
Oh, well, they cover that more.
Good Lord.
More on that in a second.
Okay. So it turns out the Saudi Arabian government's pretty cool. They'll apply a local anesthetic to if they're getting rid of your hand.
Yeah, they're chill. If you get caught stealing, they'll numb you up.
They'll numb up your hand before they cut it off. And now she's confirming that with a beheading, they do not do any anesthesia.
He rolls his eyes at her. She asks if they anesthetize. Excuse me.
That's a tough one. I hate that one.
They ask her if they numb up the beheadings, and he looks at her like, "What are you, fucking stupid?" No,
he can't stand her that she asked that. He's actually looking at her co-host like, "Why aren't you beating the shit out of her?"
I know.
He's actually.
This is why he's remote.
It's
Because he would be cutting her head off right now.
It seems as though he has been misled. He's actually pissed off. He's
He's
like,
got to talk to a woman.
what the fuck?
What is? Hey, control your bitch.
Okay, so now they're asking him if he remembers his first execution.
Like a folksy
Yeah.
kind of work
Good-
story.
It's a good place to start an interview. And he says, yeah, he remembers it to this day.
By the way, he says he remembers it. If you watch how like kind of he doesn't really remember it,
Yeah.
which is disturbing. He says he was surprised when the officials in charge asked him to carry out one of Allah's punishments.
It's a huge honor.
Me? Thank you so much. He said, they told me to do an execution. I said, no problem. I took the sword that used to belong to my father. May he rest in peace.
Yeah, I like that. That's a very Muslim thing to do. We love to rant. Like, you gotta say a may he rest in peace in there.
Italians are like that, and God rest his soul. You know, I remember I was with my father, God rest his soul, and yeah.
Arabs do the same thing.
He doesn't remember it. He can't tell that. He's like, I got one of my dad's swords, and then he goes, and then he trails off. Because they go, how old were you? At that point, I was a man. He said.
So, yeah.
And then watch what this guy says. So he's trying to remember how old he was when he did his first execution, and all he can recall is that he was a man. And then one of the most enlightening pieces of Arabic culture was spread right here. Listen to this guy. You're a man at any age. There's no doubt about that. But how old were you?
This dude is sucking this guy's dick.
Yes.
He was about 32 or 35. He began in 14, 12. Hey, you know what? As a guy, Brian, you're 35. I'm about 32. I guess it's never too late.
Yeah, we could get a career. My shoulder's killing me, though. Like, I don't... How old did you feel? Every person's a bit worried when he starts a new job.
It's a fair point. I would be so worried. I'd be like, oh, geez, I know I'm going to get this guy in his spinal cord.
Next thing you know, I got my sandal on his back trying to pull it out.
He flinches. You got a knife right into the top of his head, and you're like, oh, God, it's stuck. You're doing
Jesus.
She asked him now if he's ever beheaded anybody he's known.
Great answer right here.
You responded, yes. I have beheaded many people who were my friends.
Guys, I cannot say this enough. This is the news. But, you know, whoever commits the crime brings it on themselves, he says.
Yeah, and that's a fair point. Oh, a viewer from Riyadh called in to ask. They're opening up the phone. They're opening up the phone lines.
Does anybody have any questions for Abdullah? Oh, okay. Okay, here's Mo from Riyadh. He's calling in to ask, do you execute men and women? And do you feel anything different when you execute a woman or a man?
Well, obviously, you're going to feel a little bit different. You're going to feel a little less horny when you do a man.
This answer is...
An execution is every fucking frame of this interview from this guy is fucking bonkers, dude.
This is one of the most bone-chilling things I've ever heard in my life. And after he says an execution is an execution, he says, the difference is that sometimes when you execute a man... he cannot control his nerves and sit or stand straight.
So that the job can be done. So a woman just takes it?
Yeah, I guess so.
As for women, do you feel more compassion than for men? This is like the guy is asking, like, hey, man to man. If I felt compassion for the person I was executing, he would suffer. That is a sentence that is haunting.
Yes.
If the heart is compassionate, the hand fills.
Oh my God.
When you bet. How many questions can you ask about beheading? Every time they cut to one of these anchors, they've got a fresher question about beheading.
I met Dave Chappelle at the Comedy Store, and I was out of questions 3 in.
Go back. I want to see what this guy's question is. By the way, this is the third host, so I don't seem to understand.
No, they're just throwing guys in there.
I don't understand his role at all. So he says, when you behead more than 3 or 4 people at once, does it affect you? My second question is, do you need a breakdown? Do you need a break between executions? Well, there's a union break. Yeah, of course.
for sure.
Do I need one? No, but I'd be foolish to not take advantage of it.
It's paid.
He says there's nothing to it. He does not feel anything about beheading multiple people at once. 3, 4, 5, 6, there's nothing to it. It's entirely normal. An execution is an execution as long as the person stands straight. I feel like you're putting a lot on the person.
He's getting old. He's like, God damn it, I'm too old for this shit. As the guy's wiggling around.
What are you, drunk? You're telling people that he's got to stand straight? Wouldn't this job be easier if they just gave him a gun?
It's a post 700s weapon.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
why they used to use that.
Yeah.
And then they were like, this is actually out of practice with Wahhabi, so they went back to the sword.
I'd put the guy behind a fucking mule's asshole and just tickle the mule's asshole and just let the mule buck him to death.
That's era appropriate.
He's the first responder. He said it makes our job easier. Like the way he described it, like he was doing a heroic job.
Do you think he'll get a vaccine before everybody else because he's a first responder?
He must already have the vaccine. I do not want to see how they administer it over there.
This is a funny story she once heard. She said, I heard one time you were executing several people and the sword broke. This man does not like having lighthearted chat with a woman. Watch how he answers this. She's laughing about the idea of a sword breaking in a guy's neck. She goes, tell us that story, please. Listen to him.
ما في إلا بس المقبض اللي أنفك.
He's like, it was the handle that came off, not the blade. And he answered it like, you're such a dumb bitch.
Yeah, you dumb bitch. The handle broke, not the blade. He looks side-eyed whenever she talks to him.
He responds by looking at the man.
Yeah, he does. You see his eye line. She's asking a question. He's looking to the left. When he answers, he looks to the right.
Yeah.
مقبض السيف. نعم. نعم.
طب ابو بدر انت هل تحضر بدر او احد اخوان بدر؟
He asks, are you training your eldest son to do your job in the future?
I love that the technology is so that we can have remote visits, Skype, but we're still talking about eldest sons taking over
your job
sword head cutting.
Oh, jeez, dude.
مهنه مستقبلا خصوصا وانك ورثتها من والدك.
نعم. الآن الحمد لله بدر الآن على وشك.
Wow, his son is about to be appointed the position in Riyadh. Oh my God.
Do you think that there's a guy? Do you think that there's another guy who applied for that position and was really complaining about the nepotism? He's like, man, this fucking country really is just who you know. This bullshit. I've been training my whole life to cut heads off, but no, I wasn't born in Abdullah's family.
But you know what, man? Look, it's a diverse situation. Abdullah obviously was not born in a place as royalty in the Saudi Arabian family. He worked his way there, got lucky, and now
his father worked his way there.
Well, his father, yeah, dude, his dad must have been a real fucking go-getter back in the day.
Yeah, for sure. Is there I don't know if you know about Saudi Arabia in this way, but is there race issues there? Like if you're like a darker Arab?
Oh, absolutely. They're not fans of anybody dark. They're not fans of black people, Indian people, other Saudi Arabian people.
So he's like an athlete. Like people are able to withhold their racism because he's so talented.
Because his job is so important and critical, and
right.
Very few people can do it. I mean, the whole time while watching this, I was struck thinking, this person, if he was born in America, would be an insane psychopath. Here he is in Saudi Arabia with a full-time job, a hero, a job that requires him to do press interviews where people respectfully speak to him. His story about seeing his father, seeing the first beheading ever, and having one nightmare about it and never thinking about it again.
Could you imagine Jeffrey Dahmer being interviewed by Katie Couric? So the first time you ate a liver, how did you feel?
He gave the best answers. This will all be, by the way, once again in the show notes. Oh, man.
There's going to be a lot of links in the Patreon.
This is a good one. This is absolutely a good one. This is a good place to close it off here, Brian.